Hello and welcome to Mostly Off Topic. Gets giddy about Alpha Edition of The One Ring, second edition. Um, I do anyway. I get giddy about it. I'm joined by Ben,
Hello.
Joe,
Hello.
Matt.
Hello.
That's a practice. They'll get to do those intros very shortly when we actually get to the game. So, sorry, Joe.
Sorry, that's as giddy as we get.
That is as good as we get. It's as good as you guys get. I get giddy. So we second edition alpha has just landed, like literally Tuesday or whenever it was. This is Friday, when this video is recorded. And what we are doing is we're going to play our Loftar of Dragons campaign across into second edition. This is session 15. We're going to be starting very shortly. Episode 29, and therefore the guys, the characters have accrued around about 50 XP, give or take. But we wanted to start off with second edition alpha. We wanted to kind of get playing it. We want to be able to talk about it, and we want first-hand experience of what we're talking about before we kind of do hypotheticals. So we needed to translate the first edition characters across into second edition, and there's no conversion guide. There's kind of like specialities and stuff that exists in first that doesn't exist in second. So what we wanted to do is just a quick introduction to the characters, talk about who they are, what they're about, and then how each of the players individually translated their characters across into second edition. There was very little in the way of guidance from me. I basically said, don't try to rebuild it from the ground up. Eyeball it and just move it across based upon what you reckon is right for the character you've established in game. And then the guys did that. And we had a little bit of chat just before we started to record and stream to work out some balancing questions in terms of how people had done things. So we're going to just round robin everybody. They're going to talk about the character. They're going to talk about how they've translated it across the 2E. There's bound to be some it was like this, or that was good, or I wasn't so convinced about that in it. But we are going to do a more full what are our thoughts on second edition alpha video once we've got some experience playing it. So, Ben, hit us with your rhythm stick. Or tell us about Cirque, I don't know. It's your call. You choose.
Yeah, Cirque used to be a Blue Mountain dwarf. He's now just a dwarf. He's still a scholar with the same weakness, effectively, although the wording's changed slightly on Law of Secrets. His standard of livings remain the same as prosperous. He's always been the his belief and passion is that the dwarves can improve themselves by learning from their past and not just sort of burying it and sticking to kind of traditions in the wrong way. I've lost the specialities of Rhymes of Law, Old Law, and Tunneling because they don't exist anymore. Distinctive features. He used to have Determined and Hardy. This has now been changed to Fierce and Willful, as they were probably the closest I could get to it. Fierce effectively describes his approach to most combats that we've been in, of like, not really interested in fighting, but will stab you in the kidneys if he has to. I attained Rhymes of Law back, but as a distinctive feature now from Scholar. Body, Heart, and Wits. Thankfully, one of the options on the table was exactly what his Body, Heart, and Wits was from my original distribution of 626. Like Paul says, we've kept our common skills the same and not actually, so we haven't pulled over the suggested starting stats either, we've just pulled them as is. Still wielding a sword, all the same except its damage is now down by 1 from 5 to 4. Rewards, still got his close fitting mail and still got his cunning make shield because they translated across in the new system. Broken spells on virtues is no longer 3 different things that you can, well, it's no longer a option that you can acquire 3 different times. So it's now broken spells still. I took across again, but it's now gives me I can spend 1 hope to get a magical success for law, travel, and craft rolls. And instead of not having the second broken spells, I've taken a mastery in search and law, which I can't actually remember what mastery does off the top of my head. I'd have to look at what mastery does. And then,
I'm waiting for Joe
yeah.
to tell us.
Hmm?
I'm waiting for Joe to tell us.
No, I'll look it up if you want.
If you don't mind, that'd be cool.
I think it I can't remember what it does.
Carry on, Joe.
I've
They
done
are
something
both.
with-
Sorry, just I'm gonna jump in front of Joe as the deputy sort of law keeper. Choose two skills and make them favored.
right. In which case, I can't have search and law because I already have them. I will pick two others and make them favored instead.
It's scan
Yeah.
as well. It's scan. Scan. Not
I know, and it's also which two of is it hunting and explore that are flipped, like columns?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, you're right.
There's one
So
row,
hunting
like so.
is now
Hunting is
explore.
now body and explore is now width.
Yep. Yeah.
Well
done.
But yeah, starting score of my endurance is 28, and my load is 12 with the redoubtable feature.
Cool.
And that's it.
What's the biggest difference for Cirque moving across the second edition, apart from emancipation from its homelands?
I don't know. I haven't played it yet. Is the simple answer.
Fair.
Stats wise,
You have been talking about the endurance gap.
yeah, he's the gap between his endurance and his load is much improved. So you used to have a starting score of endurance of 30 and a fatigue of 22, which only gave us like a window of 8 to wasn't a lot in combat before you were starting to roll down, like having to roll with weary. And it's now load 12 and starting score of endurance of 28, so 16. Gives a bit more scope, I think, but then not having done combat yet, I don't know how that works as to whether that's balanced or just, towards a race.
Yeah, there's some moving parts that you kind of like need to explore in play, I
Mm.
think. Okay, cool. And what was the kind of experience? Was there anything that you kind of really struggled with converting across, or is there anything that you thought we've done it the easy way or we've done it the hard way?
Mechanically, and it's an alpha, so take this what you will. Flicking backwards and forwards in the PDF of just like, all right, there's this. Oh, but where's this gone? What's the equivalent of this now? And like I say, no translation guide of to actually be like, look here, do this, do that. Would have been really handy. Most of it, like I say, it's been a pretty much lift and shift. I've no idea if he'll play in any way, shape, or form the same because while there's a lot of things with similar names, doesn't necessarily like I don't know how they'll translate into actual play.
Yeah.
And trying to kind of wangle the different bits in.
Joe, save me. Tell me about Torg.
Okay, I'll tell you about Torg. Torg is the son of a clan chieftain from the Grey Mountains. He struggles to fill his father's boots because he's not really cut out to be a great leader, so he kind of went off, tried to find himself and wandered the wastes for a short time before returning to Erebor via Dale, where he hooked up with Cirque and Loftar. He was a leader. He's now a captain, so he has the leadership trait. He is also lordly. He was wary, and then in the last fellowship phase, I actually switched a couple of his traits. He's now wary, and he was. He was a story, so he had storytelling and smoking, which are now gone because you cannot smoke in Tor Second Edition. It's not allowed.
It's bad for you. It's bad for you.
Yeah. But it's good for interacting with other folk, which is something that Torg is not particularly good at. He tends to kind of put his foot down and then put his foot firmly into his mouth. So storytelling and smoking were kind of his ways of getting around that, really. Invoke those traits and auto pass, kind of courtesy rolls and things like that, which he's really not good at. So we kind of had a discussion in our chat about all of a sudden specialities are gone. So you just have distinctive features, and they're no longer called traits. They're just distinctive features. But in the section under traveling gear, it's slightly fuzzy and probably needs a little bit of unpicking when they actually publish the book. You can have traveling gear, which is stuff that's useful, like ropes and whatnot, but also there's a subsection called useful items, which grant you, in the right situation, and if you negotiate it with the lore master, they grant you 1 die in a specific skill. So, for example, one of Torg's useful items is a ornate pipe, which is his kind of heirloom pipe handed down, from his father's father, yada yada. And that kind of helps Torg to interact with other people and to put them at ease and to strike up conversation with them. Probably more in a courtesy kind of way. But let's see how we can kind of bend those rules in the game. And then he also has a tapestry from a character in our campaign called Kelda, who is a craftswoman, who crafted Torg a tapestry depicting the free peoples of Middle-earth kind of uniting in a very peaceful, gentle way, which was a kind of big moment for Torg because he was previously very make Erebor great again kind of dwarf. So there's that, and that will kind of be linked to his in-heart and skill mostly, I think. Possibly song as well. But so that's him. Broadly, in terms of translating in 2nd edition, it's fairly straightforward. In that, Paul gave us a fairly simple instruction to just lift and shift skills over, favored skills. We haven't built them from the ground up, like we've been saying. Attributes will carry over pretty easily. Unfortunately, Grievous is less good in 2nd edition, although I'm sure it's still very good, but it's not +2 damage, it's +1 damage. Keen is exactly the same. You get a piercing blow on a 9 or more. And what else has changed? So Dour Handed replaces the straight up damage bonus that Fell Handed was. So it works the same. I think you get +1 damage on a heavy blow, which is something you need to spend a success die. You spend a Tangwa to trigger it. So, yeah, fairly straightforward. Something that we've not touched on at all that's completely missing from 2nd edition is backgrounds. Torg's background is a penetrating gaze. So he had a hard life in the Grey Mountains and journeyed towards Erebor to find himself, yada yada. That's all kind of just fluff, really. So I don't think it impacts how the game plays. It's something that you should put together anyway, a bit of background from your character, but it's I don't think it actually exists at all in 2E.
Isn't it a stretch goal? Have I got that right? That they're going to do like we're going to do like a little. So with Forbidden Lands, there is an additional little booklet that you get, which is kind of like, here's some set of random tables that can inform your past and such like. So I seem to recall, and I may be making this up more than I make anything else up, that it was a stretch goal, but I don't know.
It's worth checking, I guess.
Oh, just to finish off, like my character conversion experience, I would say, well, you get more hope, you get more endurance. That's interesting. But like Ben said, it would have been useful to have some kind of guidelines. But this is a alpha PDF, it's not a finished product, so it'll be very different to the finished thing.
That's right. And what we could do if it just isn't working out in some ways, we could just say, right, just rebuild them, and we would then see if there is an equivalence between 1st edition XP and 2nd edition XP. But there we have it. Okay. So anything to add, Joe? Do you think that we took a sensible route, or having gone through it without having played, do you think that actually there's a better way to do that character conversion?
We're mid-campaign, we've got established characters. We've got a lot of momentum in our campaign, and it would be a bit odd to rebuild characters. I guess I don't want to finish on a bum note, but it's, we've got a core book. We don't have all of the options that we've got with first edition. There's not, your bookshelf is not going to be weighed down by this PDF. And Three Dwarves it's quite a limited set of options you've got there in terms of your build. So I don't know. I think Cirque is the most standout in terms of being different, but Loftar and Torg is probably going to be even more crossover than there was before.
Yeah.
In terms of what you can actually do with your character, but how they play is different, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the kind of like available options have been scrunched down mechanically, haven't they? Simply for the fact that we've moved from the full range of options first edition to the core options second edition. That's fine. That's cool. Washerwoman number 3 is unchanged. She pulled through her trials and endeavours. She doesn't like people moving her cheese. So she was like whatevs, and she now remains with Search. She's just not interested in change.
She's still got explore over in the strength column, and hunting in the wits column.
She has, and she refreshes her fellowship pool session, and you want to see the fact that you are not taking away a fixed improvement from spending hope from her. She would rather give you her soap suds than give that up. But Matt, tell us how is Loftar? Because I think you had a bit of a journey with this, didn't you?
Yeah, yes. It was a bit of a scenic route that I. So I was just alluding to the comment Joe made about background and how it used to work quite nice. But I think it's important that they somehow encourage people more to create background documents beyond what could be in the core book, just to make sure that we all put together a few paragraphs to drive the narrative, because it helps me as a player, but I'm sure it helps also Lowmaster to have some ideas. I remember in a different world there was a guy called Alaric, and I think writing all these stories to Joe, it helped me as well, to develop some ideas on top of my ideas. We'll put them in the archive one day. Sorry, yes. Let's go into Loftar. So, in a similar vein, I'm very different, really, because I don't think the new edition accounts for people like Dwarfs of the Iron Hills. I'm now just a generic dwarf of the Durin's folk. I am the good thing is I have more money. I immediately gain status in life. All that bling, all that sort of jewelry you can see right now is an effect of second edition. So I could never complain about the second edition. I have, on a more serious note, I've changed my calling. We've lost Joe as well. So I'm no longer a slayer. It's a champion. It's a very similar function. So, but I think he went now. With loss of some of the traits, he's now more pronounced soldier, if you like, which I guess it's explained by this champion situation. It's the same sort of shadow path, so it's still Curse of Vengeance. So he gets blood eyes and gets upset about people knocking his beer and things like that. But he has lost 2 important traits, Smithcraft and Tunneling. I still retain the enemy law, but I am no longer determined and I'm no longer hardened, which is not fair, because I used to try and get determined to do everything, to get a roll for everything, and I feel like I won't be able to do that, although Paul has promised to put it in brackets somewhere, and I'll be like, I'm actually quite determined. Can I do that to get that cake off the okay. And again, going back to serious notes, it's now fierce and proud. So it's similar to Cirque. If you upset me, I'm going to probably cause a little bit of a fight, maybe a big fight, and then proud is to do with the fact that I'm actually acknowledging what we have done so far in the campaign. I'm proud of me and my companions. Very disappointed with the loss of Matuk as a favourite sort of skill. That was quite big.
They're still weapons. They're just in the axe group.
It's like, well, I know. You could just say, because, imagine how people would get offended if you just say, no, it's not football, it's just a ball game, like any other ball games that you have. I'm sure people will be like, can't say that. Anyways, so Matok is gone, and that was a big discussion we had just before the game about the loss of virtues. So I've noticed at least 3 of my rewards / virtues were from the cultural blessing of the dwarves from the Iron Hills. So I had to replace all that with the generic ones, the Durin's Way, Baruch, Khazad, and Stoneheart, which I think look good. And I want to say at this point, I hope, in reference to Joe's earlier comment, I hope they will release more additional material, because you can see already the game has been polished up. There's some improvements here, but we just, as players, we want that additional material to enrich our characters more. But I'm getting carried away. Coat of mail. Lots of the stuff actually, upon more careful reading, lots of the stuff translates rather nicely across. I do like the traveling gear. It's really nice. You can create your own unique sort of spin on the character. So just to be true to Loftar, I have a flask of spirit, which I got from my dad, and he got it from his dad, which is just a little bit of a very strong... Sorry?
Is it the same spirit, or is it just a flask that came down the family line?
It's just a flask. I can put a very strong spirit in there. Probably some moonshine that some of the hobbits that I know from Bree, they make that stuff. This is to improve my Enharten. I have a sunstone to travel, which I guess replaced the Ironfoot Hallberg, which was before. And then final is the weaponsmith toolkit to improve my craft. And I think most of the other stuff is kind of the same. Keen and cunning make was already covered by guys before. So I think initially I was very sort of like hesitant. I was like, damn, there's going to be a lot of losses. But I think your advice, just lift the character and try and fit it into the new scheme. It seemed to have worked rather well. The only thing if you would have asked me that, the only thing I really regret is the Sworn Allegiance. That was really good because I was adding 1 additional fellowship point to the pool, but that's no longer relevant because we're going to have to preserve that more carefully.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I think there's a whole set of assumptions about how the game's going to play in 2nd edition that are grounded in 1st edition and therefore may not carry themselves across equally, which is why I'm keen. So we could have sat down and we could have tried to work out how we're going to translate this 1st edition thing into this 2nd edition thing. And I'm certain that the way in which the early homebrew will work is that a lot of the 1st edition assets will be transferred to a 2nd edition chassis. That all makes sense. I don't have time to do that, and I don't know the system well enough. I just want to play it as it's out of the book.
Yeah. I think exactly that was my enlightenment. I guess in the middle of the night yesterday, I was like, exactly. Just forget about all this other stuff. Let's focus on the new and exciting future for this. The biggest thing I'm happy about is the difference between, and I know Ben's mentioned it already, between the endurance and fatigue. Because literally, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but 2 bitch slaps and Loftar is already sort of, I'm a bit weary, I can't really get 3s and 2s and 1s. Now you really have to punch me or hit me with whatever so many times until I even start thinking about, should I be tired or wounded?
Well, we don't know what's happened to the adversary's damage, so maybe it's scary.
Yeah. It's all to be seen, isn't it?
When Loftar's sat on his arse after 1 punch from the stone troll, then we'll take those words back. Okay.
I was still able to manage, taking damage, but it was much more riskier endeavor because you really have to have many dice to get these 4s and 5s and 6s, because otherwise you're just like waving your weapon in the air.
Okay. So in general then, kind of, was it very hard or relatively straightforward or some intermediate, and how much effort do you think it took you guys to transfer your characters over, if any of our audience is kind of like thinking about it for a campaign or what have you?
I'll go first. It was easy, really. There were a couple of questions about virtues, and then until we discovered that useful items are basically the new specialities, we were sort of stuck scratching our heads saying, well, what do I do
Yeah.
about smoking or, whatever it is. Other than that, easy. But that's from the point of view of what we did was just move our skills and attributes over. We didn't kind of work out how many points we'd spent and yada yada.
Yeah,
I don't
I
use the
agree.
term easy, straightforward. It did still involve like having to do quite a bit of reading, but that's the nature of having to read something completely new, rules wise and stuff.
Yeah,
You kind of find the bits that you needed.
I think I agree. I agree with both of you. I think it's like upon further reading, it really is a much easier task. And for me, it's like getting a new shirt. It's like, oh damn, it's a completely different color. But then you put it on, it's like, okay, oh, actually fits pretty much the same. It's still comfortable. It just looks slightly different. So yeah, you get over that initial reaction of, oh, different.
Reward for
You got a new job on
weirdest
QVC.
Weirdest analogy I've heard all week goes to Matt.
There you go.
Okay. So that's it, I guess. Now that I think about it. That's how we did it. That's not to say it's the only way to do it, or in fact it's the best way to do it. What we're going to find out is whether it actually works in the game or whether the game has made a lot of tight assumptions about how characters are built and we're just going to violate them. I suspect with enough flex and enough kind of like working through, we'll be able to balance it out in any case. But it got us moving fairly quickly. Cool. So what we are going to do then is we're going to start the adventure. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode.